All right, let's jump right in. We're going to talk about implementing SAP Central Finance. Now, I know it can feel like a massive, complex project, but honestly, it's one of the most powerful things a company can do to get its financial house in order. We're talking about real clarity here, the kind that leads to faster month-end closes, way more accurate forecasts, and being able to bring new companies into the fold without all the usual headaches. So in this explainer, we're going to demystify that whole journey and turn that complexity into a super clear, manageable roadmap. So, here's our game plan. First, we'll tackle the problem itself, what I call the financial maze. Then, we'll unveil the map that's going to guide us out of it. We'll look at the 6 big-picture project phases, then zoom in on a more detailed step-by-step plan. And finally, we'll talk about how you can keep an eye on what's coming next down the road. Okay, first up, let's set the stage. We need to talk about the fundamental challenge that central finance was literally built to solve. For so many businesses, especially big global ones, their financial landscape is just this tangled web of systems that don't talk to each other. Sound familiar? You know, that feeling of trying to get one single, clear picture of your company's finances? It can feel like you're trying to untangle a giant knot of cables behind a server rack. You've got different systems in different regions, different entities, and what you end up with isn't data. It's just data chaos. And that chaos? It has real consequences, right? It means slow, painful reporting and making big decisions based on information that's already out of date. And that's the holy grail, isn't it? A single source of truth. It's the bedrock for making smarter, faster decisions across the entire organization. But, and this is important, getting there is not just a simple tech upgrade. It is a full-on business transformation. And like any epic journey, you wouldn't just start walking without a good, reliable map to show you the way. So what is this map? Well, for pretty much any SAP project, that guide, that playbook, is the SAP Activate methodology. This is the official, tried and true path that makes sure you're heading for success. At its heart, SAP Activate is the structured, formal approach for every single SAP implementation. It's not just some friendly advice. It's a really comprehensive framework that's been built from the hard-won experience of thousands of successful projects. And it's been specifically tailored for a big transformation like central finance. Now, what's really cool about SAP Activate is that it's so much more than just a project plan. You can think of it as a complete toolkit. It gives you the high-level framework, the actual digital tools to manage the project, a massive library of best practices, and, of course, that structured phase-by-phase approach to keep the whole thing on the rails. Okay, so let's zoom out and look at the highest level of our map. The SAP Activate methodology breaks every project down into 6 clear and distinct phases. This gives us a really clean project lifecycle from the very beginning to the very end. So it all starts with Discover, where you're figuring out the benefits and locking down your strategy. Then you move into Prepare, where you build out the vision and decide what's most important to tackle first. In Explore, you get into the nitty-gritty with workshops and nail down the detailed scope. Realize is where the rubber meets the road. This is where all the configuration and testing happens. Then Deploy is your go live, your production cutover, and that leads you right into the run phase, which is your new normal, your day-to-day operations. Now let's get a little more specific. Think of those 6 phases as the big container, right? The universal project management wrapper for any SAP project. But for a transformation as strategic as central finance, you need a really specific game plan inside that container. And that's where we're going to zoom in on a more detailed, linear roadmap that breaks this whole thing down into 4 strategic stages. And here it is, the linear transformation roadmap. It gives you such a clear step-by-step progression. You start with preparation, you build out your foundation, then you expand your central reporting, and finally, you move to centralizing your actual processes. It's just a really logical, phased approach that stops you from trying to do everything at once, trying to boil the ocean. This slide does a brilliant job of showing you exactly what happens in each phase. So phase 0 is all about strategy, getting your master data plans sorted out, and designing your core finance principles, like your FICO, or finance and controlling, structure. You have to get that right from the beginning. Then, in phase 1, you build the foundation with master data governance, which is just a fancy way of saying you're setting the rules to keep your data clean and consistent. Then, in phase 2, you start to expand, bringing in more and more parts of the business. The key takeaway here is that by the time you get to phase 3, where you're centralizing big things like payments, you've already built this incredibly robust, harmonized, and reliable foundation to do it on. So why go through all this in this specific order? Well, there are 3 huge advantages to this linear approach.
1, it gives you a structured step-by-step progression that makes a massive project feel manageable. 2, it guarantees strategic clarity because every phase builds logically on the one before it. And 3, this whole process drives real, tangible operational improvements, like those faster month-end closes and more reliable forecasts we were talking about earlier, all because you're centralizing processes on a solid data foundation.
So you've got your map, you're on the journey, but how do you see what's coming up over the horizon? How do you plan for all the future innovations and updates that are going to come to the central finance solution itself? For that, you use the SAP Roadmap Explorer. The best way to think about this is like it's your live interactive GPS for the product's future. It's the official tool from SAP that shows you exactly what features have just been released and what new innovations are planned to come out next. And this tool is just incredibly powerful because it's designed for two different groups. For the planned innovations, your business leaders can see the high-level overview and the benefits, so they can make smart strategic decisions. Then, for the delivered innovations, your IT teams get all the specific feature details and the technical views they need to actually do the implementation. It keeps absolutely everyone on the same page, looking at the exact same future. So there you have it, the journey to that single source of financial truth. Yeah. It's complex, but it is not a mystery. When you have the SAP Activate methodology as your framework and a clear, phased roadmap as your guide, that path to true business agility becomes crystal clear. All right, welcome to the Explainer.